microphones, but I appreciate all of you being here on short notice. Many of you I know were there this morning at the rally of our students and at their procession to the Office of Student Affairs, and heard my comments there as Catherine Bishop is handing out in the audience copies of the statement which I made this morning, which is the university statement. And as I indicated, I think the best way for us to send not only a message to this campus, but a message all across the country, is that there is zero tolerance for this kind of racist and bigoted behavior. That's something we all have to learn, I think, in this whole country, and we're going through the learning process right here. And that is wherever we are, whether it's in casual conversation or in other activities, anytime there are racist remarks made, we must speak up as Americans if we're going to put an end to this kind of nonsense all across the country. And by taking a zero tolerance policy here at the university, and by making it clear we won't tolerate this, these people, as I said this morning, don't deserve to be called Sooners. They're misusing our name. Sooners are not racists and bigots. Sooners are people that believe in respecting each other and helping each other and caring for each other. We're a real community. And I think one of the things that breaks my heart about this is that we have so many students, and you saw many of them this morning. Some were there last night in the prayer circle, who condemn this kind of activity. These values are not our values. We're different kinds of people. And it's very hurtful to think that our community, which is so strong and so positive in so many ways, is being held up by a few people. And I will just say, it will not be tolerated. That is why that house is immediately closed. That is why those young men will have to have their belongings out of that house by midnight tomorrow. And as they pack their bags, I hope they think long and hard about what they've done. I hope they think long and hard about how words can injure and hurt other people. This is not our way. These are not our values. This is not who we are, and we won't tolerate it. Not for 1 minute from anybody. So those students will be out of that house by midnight tomorrow night. The house will be closed, and as far as I'm concerned, it won't be back, at least not while I'm president of the university. It's not going to come back. It's time we send messages that are very strong and very clear. So again, I want to commend our students. They're the 99% of the great citizens of this university. Our faculty, our staff, and above all, our students who've stood up and spoken out for our real values, and I really appreciated those who came this morning and did just exactly that. They have my full support, and we're just not going to tolerate this kind of thing at the University of Oklahoma. I will tell you, I don't really have too much more to tell you other than what I said today. Obviously, the video was taken by certain individuals, people who didn't, I believe, agree with what was going on. Our students didn't agree, and I'm very proud of the fact that they've helped expose this kind of activity so that we can know about it and so that we can take action. And then I think the only way to keep faith with our students is to take this kind of action. So I view it this way. This is, to me, it's heartbreaking. I think it's heartbreaking for every member of this community. The upstanding, right-thinking members of this community, the 99%, that 1% of people through their bad behavior could cast this whole institution in a bad light. We are, in addition to what I said this morning, I've had our legal staff looking at this. I've had also our EEOC people looking at this. We're commencing an investigation, not only of the chapter, because that action's already been taken about the chapter. We know enough to have closed the chapter immediately. But we are also going to look at any individual perpetrators, particularly those that we think have taken a lead in this kind of activity. And we have a student code which prevents discrimination of any kind. It prevents those who would create a hostile environment for the education and learning by our students. And it's based upon Title VI of the Civil Rights Law of 1964. So we're examining and we're investigating at this point in time whether we will be able to take any individual action against students. Evidence has to be collected. That process to stand constitutional muster must be very carefully directed. And so we're with great care, we're conducting an investigation that is appropriate into the individual actions of students to see if we can take additional action against those individual student leaders who were most involved in this incident, in addition to taking action against the chapter of the fraternity itself. I think that's ongoing. I don't expect that to be something that we can come to conclusions about instantly. I think it's going to take some time. It's going to, as I say, requires great care. But we are conducting an investigation into individual behavior as well as chapter behavior. So with that, I would be happy. It's a little blinding here, but I'll do my best to see you. Yes. Right. Right. There might be. Under Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and our non-discrimination policy at the university is based on the requirements of Title VI. And this morning I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head. I have legal staff working on this, as well as our EEOC staff and others that are working on this. So we're investigating that. And there is, I told you this morning I wasn't sure. I'm still not exactly positive, but I first thought there was not a way we could. Now I think there is possibly a way, because obviously some of those who took leadership roles in orchestrating the chant, pushing forward the chant, engaging in this activity, which clearly is harassing on our community and disrupting our educational experience. And under the Civil Rights Law, it may be possible for us to take action against certain individuals. Yes. Yes. Well, they are banned as members of SAE from doing anything that has to do with. I don't know that we can. At this point in time, it takes a tremendous amount of work through the federal process for us to ban them from going to activities, unless, let me say, we will look at all possible punishment and what is available to us under the law. And I have to say, we don't know yet. But I would say even up through and including expulsion, which is the ultimate ban on all student activities, or any activities. So it may be possible that some of those who are most responsible for this activity, once we establish a chain of evidence and once we get legal precedent, might be held fully accountable even to that extent. It's early in the investigation, but we're certainly looking into all of that. And I understand the frustration of some students, and I first understand how hurt they are by this, and certainly minority students at this university, African American students, students of color are hurt by this, and that's what I mean by the need for all of us to stand up and put a stop to any of this the minute we know about it. And then there's a frustrating side of it. What can we do? I feel just as intensely as they do, all of our students. And that rally this morning was a diverse cross-section of the student body. It was not one group. It was the whole university community condemning this kind of action. So it could be that some will even voluntarily take themselves out of the university, make a decision to leave the university. But would I be happy if they left the university? as students and were no longer our students, you betcha. I'd be happy. We don't have any room for racists and bigots at this university. I'd be glad if they left. Yes.
President Warren J. Northern Transcript, with the House being closed and investigation ongoing, what is the current situation for the students involved in the meantime?
Well, I have to say, I don't have much sympathy for them. They'll have to find a roof over their heads themselves. We don't plan to help them. I'll tell you that. As I just said, I'd be happy if they left. So the ones that were involved, I know not every member of this fraternity was involved, but a large number were, a busload, and no, we're not going to help them. They're going to have to find a way. No, that's not our responsibility. We don't provide student services for bigots. Yes. The Greek system has had several students who are minority students. There's a range, and this is the reason we can't paint with a broad brush. There are fraternities and sororities that still need to become more diverse. But there are also fraternities and sororities that have done a very good job of including a very diverse population, diverse in all sorts of ways. And so I think we can't paint. Some are doing quite well, they're making progress. Others are still locked in the past, and they need to realize that it enriches the experience and the friendships that are involved if they become more diverse as organizations. We've had a lot of cooperation between fraternities and sororities and national Panhellenic minority fraternities and sororities and doing joint projects and other things. So I do not think we can paint the whole Greek system with a broad brush. But you can be sure that I have asked our Vice President for Student Affairs and his staff to conduct a very deep study into exactly what is going on. Before this happened, I had been working with the group that is known as Unheard here on the campus that organized this morning's rally to broaden the base. For example, Camp Crimson, which has volunteer counselors for our new students, to make sure that the counselor corps is a very diverse corps. We need improvements in that area. We're working toward that right now. I understand there's some very good progress being made. We're working on all what are called the campus activities councils. They work with the Greek and non-Greek community on things like homecoming, music concert series, speaker series, and other things. Obviously, we have to have a more diverse representation on those committees, and they're in the bullseye. They haven't been diverse enough, and we need to improve it. We need to make sure that the music, the speakers, the whole homecoming program is more inclusive, and we're working on those things along with adding an additional person in student recruitment to try to recruit an even more diverse student body. We're of the major universities in the state, we are the most diverse, and we say that with pride because we think that enhances the learning experience and it makes us grow as people to get outside our own little boxes and relate with each other. So we're working on all of those things, and of course a longer range goal toward increasing minority faculty as well. And that's a very difficult one, and it involves a lot of identification of qualified applicants and encouragement for them to apply. Yes?
President Warren, wondering how forthcoming the local SE chapter has been with information as to who is involved, who's on the bus, who started.
Not totally forthcoming, and of course the main leverage I have if they're not totally forthcoming is to throw them off campus. So we've thrown them off campus. I hope they will be. I think they need to grow as people. I'll tell you something. If there are 15 or 20, I don't know exactly how many. I don't know what the number is of people who are involved in this, who are knowledgeable of what they were engaged in. I want to see those people meet with a group of our African American student leaders, preferably in my office, and personally apologize to them. They're gone as a fraternity off this campus. And as I said, they're not coming back anytime while I'm here. So, but at least I think they grow as people when they learn fully what it means, the hurt they inflict when they use racist terms, and the hurt they inflict when they, in essence, close people off. You're an outsider, we won't let you in. I think that, which was the message of that chant, that reprehensible chant. Well, I think they grow as people when they have to look someone else in the eye, not in the abstract, but in the eye, and say, I apologize. I see what I've done. I see the damage I've done. As I said, as they pack their bags, I hope they think about that a lot. And I hope the leadership of the fraternity will come forward and give us a list of names of just exactly who was on that bus. Yes.
I would like to know, first of all, when and how did you first come upon the video, and then what was your just initial reaction,
Well,
not only as the president, but as a human being too?
I was, today we have an incredible event occurring on the campus. Many of our students, faculty, and alumni are involved, probably about 2,000 in the course of the day. We have three Pulitzer Prize winners on the campus. We're conducting a day-long session, we call it a teach-in, on the history of the American West in celebration of our 125th anniversary. So you can imagine, in one way, it was a day we were so looking forward to at this university, a great time. This is the fourth time we've done it with leading historians from all over the United States. I was hosting a dinner last night for some of our historian guests at our house, and I was interrupted by a phone call from the Vice President for Student Affairs, who had just seen the video moments before. And so I got to the table, took the call, and one of my associates who was there was able to look at the video, to say I was sickened by the video, almost not able to continue to eat or be a good host because of what I saw. And my first reaction was, it couldn't be here. It just couldn't be here. This community is so good. It's so positive. That was my first reaction, was disbelief. And then I realized it was here. It was. As we went on, and I called upon the people to absolutely ascertain because you never know. You see something, you don't know exactly. You couldn't see right off the bat where the video was, whose students they were. But we determined that it was this group. It was a group from the SAE fraternity. And I couldn't sleep after that. And when I heard about the rally at 7:30 this morning, I was determined to be there because I want our students to know how proud I am of them for standing up the way they have and for speaking out and for showing the world this is not who we are. These are not our values, and we're not gonna let that happen here. So I would say I was sickened by it, and then the next thing, I was so deeply saddened by it that it could happen here. Hello.
President Warren, when does this investigation start? Will the university be investigating other fraternities and sororities on campus to find similar patterns of behavior?
Well, yes. We will be looking anywhere there are patterns of behavior like this. I don't know of anything else like this that has occurred, but are others being inclusive? Are they being welcoming at social events and other things to minorities, to people of color, et cetera, et cetera? We will be looking, and again, in that regard, we have to depend upon, and the Office of Student Affairs will coordinate the whole thing. Dean Stroud will coordinate it with the other two offices, with our EEOC office, and our legal staff will also be involved. But we have to, I talked to a group of students briefly this morning before I went over to the teach-in, but we have to depend upon students to let us know about these things. One of the things I'm fond of saying to people, and I'm sure anybody who runs a large institution, you cannot fix something you don't know about. So if you know, for example, of instances in which you are not welcomed, or anybody you know is not welcomed, We need to know that. I intend to meet with, it'll probably be a few days, maybe right after spring break, meet with all of the university's fraternity and sorority and Panhellenic, National Panhellenic presidents and talk with them about this very thing. We'll be on the theme of let this be a lesson to you. Here's what happens to, whether it's the Greek system or anybody else, here's what happens to racists on this campus and to people that are intolerant. And let that be a lesson to you. Now start searching your own programs in your own houses and just see if you meet the standards we expect at this university. So I'm hoping that the punishment that has been meted out already so far immediately will be a strong message to others. I think sometimes that's the best way to improve. But do I think there's room for improvement? Yes. Do I think all sororities and fraternities are bad actors? No, I know some specifically that are quite diverse and that are really doing the right things, I think, on many issues. But there are others that aren't, and there's room for improvement. So we'll be looking at everything very carefully. And as I said, we've already started with the Unheard group. They've been very constructive, very thoughtful. And they have brought things to me that, frankly, the days, this is why this is so shocking. In the United States of America, and particularly in Oklahoma, and at the University of Oklahoma, for this to happen in this day and time, a blatant exclusionary attitude is unthinkable. But what is happening, and that very rarely happens, but what is happening are more subtle forms of discrimination, more subtle. And we have to look at those subtle things as well. That's why we need very diverse committee about homecoming. Is it inclusive or is it not? Really inclusive. Such things as even do some national Panhellenic fraternities, for example, who want to make floats, do they have places to store them? Things like that. Are we bringing in concert artists that speak to all of our diverse student population? Are we bringing in speakers that speak to the diverse student population? There are all these things that we need to be working. And so we had already started. The irony is we've been making, I think, in fact, we were going to have another meeting together. It's already scheduled later in March to talk to each other again about the progress we're making on all these things. And I brought all the Dean's Council together 4 or 5 weeks ago to talk about faculty recruitment, to talk about trying to take the minority program in engineering to other colleges, and it's been very successful, the multicultural program in engineering. So we've been looking at all these things, and we've been making such, I think, good progress and thoughtful progress. And we've been trying to find ways, even in these rough budgetary times, can we find a way? Even when we've been cut $100 million since 2008, what can we do? And there are a lot of things we can do that don't require money, and we ought to do them. And they require some attitude adjustment. I think sometimes people can also be, they can be thoughtless. They can be insensitive and not even know it. And I think part of this is, it's our obligation, and we will do that, and we're trying to do that now. Make people more aware. Make people more sensitive. Make people more inclusive. It's a one-on-one relationship that has to be formed. So we're going to be doing that every way we possibly can.